So, welcome to Faith and Calm, class number 235. I almost got that wrong. And welcome. I put a space background here because Hanukkah is coming up. So I thought should have probably had some Hanukkah theme, but I thought, hey, closest up for the quick operation here. So we're talking about Hanukkah, and it's an interesting thing. One of the prayers that we say on Hanukkah, um, not in the Al Haneros, but in the prayers that we say on Hanukkah, Al Hanisim, and we talk about that how God rescued us. He rescued the weak from the gave victory to the weak over the mighty, the Giburim biyad Halashim, the many, the Rabbim Bayad Ma'atim, the few into the hands of the many into the hands of the few. So this seems to be the miracle of Hanukkah. It was a big salvation. It was about the battle. It was if anybody was going to ask what was the main story, the big excitement would be the Jews. Were vastly outnumbered. A small army with makeshift weapons, and they were facing a superpower of the Syrian Greeks, Syria again. As Syria is in the news again, actually, but this time Syria is falling also, and they had even tanks in those days. They were called the elephants, and that was the tank of the Greek Empire. So that was a pretty invincible element in battle. But they won. They won, and so that would be it. But it continues on, and it says that it also that the wicked, the Rashayim biyad tzaddikim, the wicked were in the hands of the righteous, and that the and the impure in the hands of the pure. That's the tar, and also the askitor. What is the other one? And the ones who don't do the mitzvahs in the hands of the woski mitzvahs. That's not a parallel. What does it say? It says
probably Rishayim.
Shayim. Well, Rishayim b'shada tzaddikim was already said. I meant to get a sitter, but anyway, you'll look it up. The Rebbe asks a question in the Sikha. Says, "I don't understand. This is mixing two very different ideas here, and so forth. that there are wicked people don't defeat the righteous people is not about a spiritual element, and the spiritual elements obviously the tzaddik is at a higher level than a Russia. What kind of competition is it? And the impure in the hands of the pure." And those who Zaydim, the ones who deliberately sin in the hands of those who keep the mitzvahs. That's about mitzvahs. It's about Torah. It's not about a physical battle so much. Okay. So we need to understand what is this Hanukkah about, and that's what this class is about here. What is really Hanukkah? A lot of people don't understand what it is, and probably I didn't understand. I didn't understand it most of my life either. What are we really celebrating here? Because most of the other holidays in the Jewish calendar, it's pretty clear what it's about. On Purim, we celebrated the fact that they wanted to wipe out every single man, woman, and child, and we didn't. And we survived. And because we have that holiday, then we don't need another holiday about it. They tried to wipe us out in the Holocaust, but we don't have to have a separate holiday for the Holocaust, because if we had to do that, we would have so many holidays where God saved us and didn't wipe us out, so that we just have one holiday which symbolizes that particular energy, the energy of the fact that the Jews are the eternal people, and that they can rise up against us and try and wipe us out, and they never wipe us out. Pesach is about the idea of going out from slavery. And so that is the theme of Pesach. But what is the theme of Hanukkah? And we commemorate it, with a menorah. That's what we do. We light candles. So does that seem like lighting candles? What does that have to do with winning a battle? So now you have to get into what really means. What does it mean, Hanukkah? And what is really the core thing that we're celebrating on Hanukkah? So people who know the history, who look in the history books about Hanukkah, know that the Greeks actually were not like the time of Purim, where they wanted to wipe out the Jews. They weren't trying to enslave us like in the time of Paro and in Egypt. The Greeks actually liked the Jewish people, and they celebrated the Jewish learning and culture and so forth, and they had no real problem with us being Jews. And they said, "Fine, you have a religion. It's wonderful. Keep doing it. You know, it's interesting. It's culture. It's we're into that philosophy. You have interesting books. Do it. You know, just one thing. Don't mix God into the picture." God business is not that's old fashioned. This is the modern era. This is the year 165 BCE. We're in the year one. You know, we're no longer living in those, you know, where there's these gods and walking around anymore. It's human. And the Greeks celebrated and enjoyed everything human. They enjoyed the human body. They thought the human form was fantastic. It should be on display. You should have sports. They celebrated human arts, music, the human passions. If you read their plays, it's all about all very passionate thoughts and so forth. It was a celebration of everything about human, and that was the center of Greek culture. So they said, go ahead, have the party, but don't tell us that God told you to do this. Say that human beings made this up. It's beautiful art like the Iliad and the Odyssey. It's an interesting book. It's fascinating, and we will put it on the shelf together with the rest of our books. But don't mix God into the picture. Call it humanism. Call it cultural. Call it interesting. Call it intellectual. But it's about this God business has got to go. And many of the Jews actually did agree with them. And they joined together with them because they said, you know, secular humanism, that's pretty nice. You know, it'll be humanism. It's humanism. It's for human reasons we do these things. It's a human beauty. So the Rebbe says that's what it was. The battle was not just about a battle with the Greeks. The battle was also the battle with a lot of Jews. The majority of the Jews actually joined the Hellenistic cause. It was only a small minority that decided to keep true. And therefore, that's why it calls them Rishayim, wicked. You wouldn't have to call non-Jew. He doesn't have these mitzvahs, so you can't call him a Rasha. And you can't call him a Zaydim. He's not an intentional sinner because he doesn't have those sort of things. And he's not a Tameh because Tameh, Tuma, purity and non-purity certainly don't apply to them. They can touch dead people as much as they want. So it's talking about Jews who actually went over to the other side and decided, you know what? You're right. Judaism without God is a better Judaism. It'll be more accepted. Will be more allowed into the universities. University, a nice Greek term. Will become part of everything else. And this few group of Jews fought against them. And you know who won? Well, look around. Look around today, even. You know, we found out what happened with universities and what secular humanism leads to and all the intellectualism and so forth. It was the wrong side. Today, it's obvious that to be a moral person, to be an intelligent person, to be a smart person, you cannot just survive just on intellectualism, because then you can make any theory you want and make any kind of philosophy you want, and you can declare that that's good. You can declare that mutilating little boys and girls is good, and somehow that's a healthy attitude. You can come up with any kind of stupidity about any attitude and so forth, because it's valueless. And when it's valueless, therefore, then it goes down, down, down into just complete insanity. And that's what we have, you know. It doesn't matter that you have to tell the truth. It doesn't matter as long as it sounds interesting, as long as it plays well on the radio, as long as it plays well as a political speech. and we can make up any kind of fantasy about whatever's going on, and we can publicize it, and we can say whatever we want to say. And we have festive, if anything, this holiday is relevant to today because we have seen what happens with that philosophy. So the few Jews who stood up against it are basically the voice that's saying, you know what, it's not, there is ground truth. You can't just make up things full cloth just because it's fascinating and interesting and cute and sounds and that makes a nice novel. It doesn't necessarily work well that way. There is a truth to this universe, and God gives us that truth. And that is the Battle of Hanukkah. That's why it was a war. It was a philosophical, ideological war, and that war continues on today, which is why that battle is relevant today. But we can see what is the winning side. Now, the Rebbe ties this up and he says, but don't think this is not just a battle between certain groups of people and other groups of people. It's a battle that goes on inside of ourselves, too. Many times people think about themselves and they wonder, I'm not necessarily such a good person. Maybe I have some Hellenistic traits inside of me and a bit of some sort of, of attitude towards that and so forth. And maybe I was involved in that for many years. And therefore, is there really any hope for me? Can I really become a Baal Tshuva? Can I really turn over and so forth? So what the Rebbe is saying, that's what the Pach Shemen is. That's what the little oil is. You can never lose your soul. The Jewish soul is always alive. No matter how buried it is, no matter how underneath covers it is, how much muck is on top of it, how much it's lost in the world. All the Jews were redeemed by those few Jews who fought against the Maccabees. All the Jews were saved because of those few that fought against the Greeks, the Maccabees that fought against the Greeks. All the Jews went out. And therefore, that's the same thing with a Baal Tshuva. When we start doing our mitzvahs and we start saying, I want to become better, I want to improve, that itself overpowers all the history that we've had that was on the other side. The few, the little, the weak, we may seem weak compared to the rest of our lives. We may seem few and compared to the rest of our lives. We may seem miratame compared to the rest of our lives. There's a pach shemen. There's a little bit of oil that's sealed with a Kohen Gadol seal that cannot be contaminated, which is always pure, which is always alive, which is always can light up. It can go for 8 days just on one little flask of oil, and it's enough oil, enough to illuminate the rest of the world. It's a message for us. It's a message of the power of our soul. It's the message of who we really are. So to continue with just a short story then about this thing that I saw from Tuvia Bolton. So he tells a story about a man who lived in Baghdad about 100 years ago. He was a very rich man. And one Shabbos, he only had one guest at his table. And the guest was there, and the guest was a poor man. And he's looking at this table. It's so rich. It's got gold like plates. I don't know what gold inlining and plates look like. But anyway, it was a very elaborate table with elaborate silverware. But he saw that there was this one jar, old jar of olive oil. And he was wondering why that was sitting there on the table. And it sat there from course to course. So anyway, afterwards, he asked the host, what is that broken, yucky jar of oil there? And he says, there's a story there. He says, okay, I'll tell you the story. This is the story of my salvation, how I came back to Judaism. What was the story with this man? This man grew up in a house in Baghdad. His father was a businessman, and father was very busy most of his life and didn't have time to really spend much time with his son because he was busy with all the big business. So his grandfather was really raising him and sending him to shul and to class and teaching him about Judaism. And his grandfather would always tell him whenever he went out to school each day, he says, remember this line. Anna Yava, what does Reuven say again? Anna Yava, Reuven. When Yosef finds Reuven, the Yosef is not in the pit anymore.
I don't know the line. Say it in English.
Where am I going to go? Where am I?
Where? Yeah. Who am I? Where am I?
Who am I going?
What am I going to do?
Who am I? What am I going to do? Anna Liada. How am I going to? How am I going to answer my father and father? And he said, I never understood what my grandfather was telling me. And then one day, my grandfather died, and I was brought into my father's business, and I became part of the business. I was a young kid, and even when I was still young, my father also died, and I thought that I could basically take over the business. And I asked them if I could do it, and they said, "Okay, you can try for a couple months." And so he became the business person, and he was extremely young, but he had to drop out of school, and but he liked doing business, and he was very successful, and he became extremely wealthy, and he was just doing better and better. But he didn't have the background that his father and his grandfather had in Judaism. So as time went on, he saw more business opportunities to deal with the Arabs and the Muslims by dropping some of his Jewish practices. And after a while, he dropped more and more and more until finally he became extremely wealthy, but not doing very much Jewish at all. So came one night, he was walking home and he saw a little boy, and the boy was crying, and he said, "What's the problem?" And the little boy says, "You wouldn't understand. It's a Jewish thing." Jewish thing? I said, "I'm Jewish. You don't look Jewish. I'm Jewish." He says, "Well, I'll tell you. Tonight is Hanukkah. We're very poor. My mother gave me the last coin that we could find in the house. I was supposed to get a jar of oil for the Hanukkah menorah, and I was so happy I was bringing it home, and I was dancing my way home, and I guess I didn't pay attention, and I tripped and I fell, and now I broke the jar, and we don't even have any oil." So the man felt bad because he got the message. Got the message. You got now my grand. I know because the boy said the same line. He said, "Anna yad Anna halach avi." How can I go home? What can I say? And he realized that he had the same problem. He says, What is happening with my Jewish soul? It was the oil in that jar. Somehow it fell out, and how am I ever going to get that oil back into my return to my people?" So the man felt terrible. He gave a big wad of money to the boy. Then he went home and he was wondering, is it possible that I could have actually lost my Jewish soul? No, you can't lose your Jewish soul. So he made a menorah. He got a menorah. He lit a candle the first night. And he decided after that he was going to keep kosher. And the next night he decided that he was going to keep Shabbos. And each night he added one more candle. And he decided to keep one more mitzvah. And he says, it brought me back. So those little candles, each light, each little step that we take forward, each mitzvah that we do, one more mitzvah, helps illuminate the menorah inside of ourselves. It helps illuminate our lives. And it helps bring back that soul into a revealed place, because it can never, that one little pack, that little jar of oil is the essence of the soul, and it can never be quenched, and it's always in every Jew, no matter how far the Jew runs away. That's with that, I'll turn over the mic to my wife, and I think she's going to tell us some amazing stories that have happened today. No, she's not going to do it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, but anyway,
okay.
More miracle stories coming.
Okay, good. I'm going to tell a story. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell it. Okay.
Thank you, Yukasco Shimon.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. I hope so. I think it's a good story.
Okay. Oh, wait, my pillow. Now. Oh, now I'm in outer space. Such a
glasses.
Please take your glasses. Okay. Okay. So remind me to give blessings at the end, because it's my birthday, and on your birthday your mazel is gover, meaning that your like the root of your soul is extremely powerful, and you have greater power. A Jew has power to give blessings anytime, at any time, but on their birthday they have even more. So remind me to give blessings to everyone. And does anybody?
Happy birthday! Happy birthday!
Thank you so much. Does anybody want to say anything before I begin?
Happy birthday!
Yes, happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
And all best wishes.
Thank you so much. Look what Yeskel Shem gave me, outer space. It's so cute. So anyway, okay, I'm going to start with the four things that I always start with, which is number one, we're in an extraordinary time. We are in the unfolding of the redemption, and it is very exciting. We're living in an extremely exciting time. Seriously, very, very, very exciting. And people waited thousands of years for this time. and we're in it. Number two, our souls were handpicked to be in this time because we each have an important role to play. Number three, we were given all the tools we need to perform whatever it is that we need to do. We were given the mitzvahs, which are our power tools, and the Torah, which is our guidebook. And finally, by learning about redemption and Mashiach, we're speeding up the process. That's what Rebbe said. There's no way to speed it up faster than by learning about it. So, so today was my birthday, and I will, Hashem drops, like Hashem drops love notes. He just does. Every once in a while, he just lets you know that he's there. And so today in school, I did what I wanted to do. I talked about how you celebrate a Jewish birthday with the first graders, with the kindergartners, and usually in school, I don't know, they have this thing that they give all the employee on their birthday, they get them a bunch of flowers, and so I've been working there for 20, it's my 22nd year, I think. So I realized that in breakfast nobody gave me usually they give you breakfast or something at breakfast or something like that. Didn't get flowers. And then when I started to leave the building, before I left the building, I noticed that on the at the office administrator's behind her desk there was a vase of roses, and I thought, they got me roses this year. How nice! And I started walking out the door thinking somebody's going to give me something, and nobody said a word. And I even said, I want to give you a blessing. I mean, I did want to give them a blessing. It's my Jewish birthday. And they said, oh, wonderful. Bye. And I left. I was thinking, they forgot me this year. They forgot me. And so anyway, I'm not big on presents, but on your birthday, it's nice if people acknowledge that it's your birthday, right? There's something, it's built into the genes from living in growing up in America and having a normal American childhood. So anyway, I came home and I was thinking about those flowers, and I said, Shlomo Sehudis, come on, it's your, it's not a very, I don't want to be thinking about that. It's not very important. But my mind kept reverting back to the flowers, and I said, forget it. So as soon as it's, whatever, I wasn't upset. I thought about it. I didn't even want to be thinking about it. Then Baruch Hashem, a friend sent me flowers. And then after that, Yeskel Shim put in an order to Wegmans, and it arrived around 6:00. And on the top, they deliver it onto the porch. And I opened the door, and on the top of the pile, there's like 10 nice, the flowers that I really wanted that I thought were mine were red roses. And there were red roses on top of the groceries. And I thought, so nice. Yeskel Shimon heard my story, and he ordered roses with the rest of the Wegmans order. And Yeskel Shimon came upstairs. I said, thank you. That's so nice. He said, Shlomo Sehudis, I didn't order any. I'm sorry, I didn't order it. I did not order any roses. And I said, but Yeskel Shimon, where is it? There's nothing. It doesn't say anything on it. I said, you ordered it. You're just not telling me. So he pulled up the order and he showed it to me, and he did not order it. And there was no sign on it, no nothing. So it must be that the Wegmans delivery person delivered something to me that I wasn't supposed to get or whatever. And they're long gone. I don't know. I don't know what it was, or maybe somebody dropped roses off, but they were exactly like the roses that I had wanted earlier in the day. So it's like Hashem saying, I didn't forget about you. I'm still here. I didn't forget about you. So it's a very sweet
Amazing.
A sweet story. So anyway, I want to tell you, so I'm just going to, so what do you do on a Jewish birthday? On your Jewish birthday, you have a farbrengen, like we're having now. You gather some friends and you talk Torah. And you give blessings because you have a greater power on your Jewish birthday to give blessings. And you make a shehechianu, which means you eat a new fruit. I did that in school with the kids. Yeskel Shim and I were shopping in Trader Joe's last night, and all of a sudden I remembered, shehechianu for tomorrow. And I ran over and I just grabbed the first thing I could see, which was a pomelo, a pomelo, yeah, which I have not had for decades since I was in Florida. And so I did that with the kids. They really enjoyed it. And you learn. I didn't have a chance to do this yet. I have to do it later. You learn in depth your new parak of Tillim, because when you a person should say every day their parak of Tillim. What is your parak of Tillim? You take your age and you add one. So, for example, like when a baby is born, the mother would start saying one. Now, the baby's not one yet, the baby's 0, but it's in its first year of life. So you say parak 1. If you're 24, you say parak 25. If you're 75, you say parak 76. You say whatever, you say one more than your age. So you study that parak and think about its significance for you at this stage in life. And let's see, is there anything else? If I can think of something else, I'll mention it. But meantime, I thought I would just tell a story in honor of my birthday. And I'm a very heavy user of the Rebbe's letters. And throughout, it became a custom. The Lubavitcher Rebbe's, every single one of them, including ours, was thrown in jail for teaching Torah. Some for our Rebbe for only a few hours in Paris before he was Rebbe, and he was standing on. He was so excited on Purim. He was living with the Rebbitzin in France, and he was so excited. He said, "I have to go out into the street. I have to tell some people about this." And he went out in the street and he saw somebody who was Jewish. He started talking to him, and he was so animated that a whole bunch of people started collecting around him, and he got arrested for making a demonstration without a permit. and he was in jail. He could have only one phone call, and he called his good friend Rabbi Soloveitchik from Boston, yeah. But they were both I don't know if the story was in France or in Berlin, but they were both in the same city at the same time. And so Rabbi Soloveitchik came down to the prison. He said, "No, you don't understand. This guy's fine. He's a very upstanding person." And they let him go. And when they were walking away from the prison, Rabbi Soloveitchik said, "Now I know you're going to be the Rebbe of Lubavitch someday. You know how I know? Because all your ancestors were arrested and you were just arrested. It means you're going to be the Rebbe someday," which is true. That's what happened. So anyway, so how did I get onto that? Anyway, I'm a very heavy consumer of letters to the Rebbe. The Rebbe wrote thousands and thousands and thousands of responses to people's letters to him. And it became a custom, even before our Rebbe, that if you could not contact your Rebbe to ask him for advice, you could write it out and put it in a volume of that Rebbe's teachings. And then open to see where you put your letter in at random and read what it says on either side of the page and see if it gives you advice. And I've gotten the most remarkable advice through that, just absolutely on the money. And so anyway, I'm gonna tell a little Allegro story. It's called. You can do it today. You can even do it online today. It's called igrotkodesh.com. Probably you can just do igrot.com, IGROT. But I know it's also Igrot Kodesh, KODESH.com. Okay, so this story happened in Florida. There was I'll tell you his name. His name is Rabbi Daniel Shahino. He's Sephardi, and he's Sephardi Chabadnik. Yeah, there's many Sephardi Chabadniks, and he was asked to be, when he was very young still, he was asked to be a rabbi of a big Sephardi shul in Florida, and he agreed. It was called the Rashbi Shul. And after he had been a rabbi there for like 3 years, he looked around and, they had it was a building that needed a lot of work, and they had done a little bit here, a little bit there, a little renovation here. But he said, you know what? Let's make this a beautiful building. Let's make it a beautiful building. And they all got excited. And he got excited and he raised money. And, he was, I don't know where he's from. He's not from America. And he had limited English, right? But anyway, he was their beloved rabbi. And they decided they're going for it. And they collected a lot of money and they started doing the renovations. And none of them knew their finger from their elbow in terms of government regulations. And they hired people. They put in a new wiring system, new electricity. They opened up the roof. They took down this wall. They took down other walls. One day there's a knock on the door and it's a government inspector. And the government inspector said, we heard that there's renovation work going on here, but we don't know of any permits that were drawn. And so the people said, well, we're just doing a little here and there. And the inspector looks around, there's electric wires hanging down, there's walls missing. He said, I don't know if this is just a little thing here and there. And he actually went up like a ladder to the attic, and the inspector, and he touched a live wire, something like that, and he crashed to the ground. And the inspector said, what's going on here? What are you guys doing? Pretty soon, in minutes, he called the office, and there were 15 inspectors crawling all over the building. And they gave him 70 fines worth unbelievable amounts of money. And they said, you're going to have to, we're closing down your building. And the rabbi said in his broken English, but it's the only place we have. Please, can we just continue while we take care of this? And so the guy said, yeah, okay, you can have 3 months. We're giving you 3 months warning, but you have to pay these fines. So the rabbi was so overwhelmed. He's like a new immigrant. He doesn't know the language. He doesn't know the customs. He doesn't know the law. And he kept getting letters from the government. And he was too afraid to open them. And the letters piled up. And he was just too afraid to open them. And so finally, there's another knock on the door. And there was another knock on the door. It's a guy saying, you haven't been answering our summons. Here, this is I'm delivering this in person. You have to appear in court. You have to settle all this. So he was panic stricken. He didn't know what to do. And he said, oh, I'm just an immigrant. I don't speak English well at all. How am I going to do anything? And the inspector said, or whoever it was, said, bring someone who knows English. And that was the end of the conversation. So he talked to 2 ladies in his community, and the two ladies, they said, don't worry, we'll go to court with you. Don't worry about it. When the court date came, one of them couldn't come for one reason, and the other one couldn't come for another reason. It's 5 minutes before he has to leave for court. He's thinking, oh my gosh, I can't even speak. What am I going to do? I'm in terrible trouble. But he decided he's going to rely on Hashem. Hashem is going to help me. That's it. Hashem is going to help me. And he decided, I only have 5 minutes before I have to leave. And I'm not going to be able, I can't speak English well. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to write to the Rebbe for a blessing. So in 5 minutes, he wrote out his letter. He put it in Igros Kodesh. And the answer there said, your blessing will come from learning Tanya with deep understanding. Really go into it. So he grabs his Tanya. He brings it to the courtroom. And he's in the courtroom and he's learning Tanya. You have to wait a long time before your case is called. And he's even saying it out loud. He's totally lost. He's lost sense of where he is in the world. And he's saying this Tanya back and forth, back and forth. And a lady is standing behind him and she says, what's that book you're reading? What's it all about? And he doesn't want to talk to her, but she asks again. And his English it's broken, right? He has broken English. So he wanted to say it's about neshamas. It's a book about souls. But he didn't know the word for neshamas. And the closest thing he could come to was, it's about ghosts. And she said, so she screams, ghosts? Ghosts? That's my favorite thing in the whole world. I studied ghosts in college. It's my favorite thing. She's shouting at this point. And the judge looks at them and says, this is a courtroom. Can you keep it? Can you keep it down? Can you keep it down? Please, the two of you, you're disturbing us. Anyway, she is totally oblivious. She says, Rabbi, what does it say there? You're a rabbi. What does it say about ghosts? I want to know what. I'm not Jewish, but I'm religious. I want to know what your book says about ghosts. And the judge gave them a second time he reprimanded them. Meanwhile, the judge is dealing at the current moment. He's dealing with an Israeli, and this guy. I guess he was Israeli. So no, I don't know if he was Israeli, but he sees that he's dealing with an Israeli, and the judge is not happy with this Israeli that he's dealing with, and the judge ends up telling the Israeli that he's dealing with at the current moment, you have to fix this problem, and you have to pay the court $500 for every day this problem is not fixed. Go. And from that point on, everybody in the court noticed that the judge was in a terrible mood. He started handing out fines left and right. Fines, if get this problem done, or you're fined this amount a day. People were being judged. He was telling people, $100 a day or $200 a day if you don't get this problem fixed. This guy's getting more and more nervous, and this woman keeps shouting to him about ghosts. And he knows that his bracha is going to come through studying Tanya in depth. So she starts shouting again. Does it say anything in there about souls coming back to life? What does it talk about in there? Please, Rabbi, you've got to tell me. And finally he tells her, listen, please be quiet. We already yelled out twice. Please, I don't want this judge to hate me. You can come to my synagogue. I'll give you the address, and I'll talk to you all you want about it. And so she said, okay. But please, can I ask just one more question? What's the name of the book? And so the rabbi says, Tanya. And she screams, you're lying. What are you talking about? How do you know my name? You're not telling the truth. And he says, the name of the book is Tanya. And she said, prove it to me. This is not normal. Prove it to me. She's shouting. And so he quickly opens the book. It's a book in Hebrew, but there is one word in English, and that's Tanya. And he points it out to her, and she shouts in the middle of the courtroom, oh my, that's amazing, unbelievable. So finally he says, please be quiet. The whole courtroom is staring at him, at the two of them. Finally, shortly after, he hears Shahinu Daniel. That means he's being called up to the judge. The judge, in fact, was calling his name. He goes up. He doesn't know what he's going to do. How is he going to represent himself? He can't speak English. What is he going to do? And so he's standing on one side of the judge's desk, and the judge calls the lawyer for the city of Sunrise, Florida. The city of Sunrise has to appear on the other side. And Rabbi Shahino looks across, and he sees, oh my gosh, the lawyer for the city of Sunrise who's prosecuting. It's that lady. She is totally in shock also. And the judge says, ma'am, what's your name? And she doesn't even say her name. And then he says, ma'am, tell us the charges against this person. What are the charges? And she's sort of out of her mind. And she just starts flipping through her papers, and she's not answering. And he says, ma'am, you have to answer me now. And then after about another half minute of her fiddling with her papers, the judge shouts, case closed. There's nothing against this guy. You are dismissed. You are dismissed. The city of Sunrise is not prosecuting you. Case dismissed. Thousands and thousands. And he said, and you can do whatever you want. The city doesn't care. You can do whatever you want. So anyway, it's an amazing story. The Rebbe said, Tanya, learning Tanya in depth will be your salvation. And so what did he do? He really did it. He was, in the beginning, before the woman noticed him, he was so into it. He was saying it, was saying it out loud and swaying back and forth. And that's what drew her attention. And the entire case was dismissed, even though had it actually come to the judge with a normal prosecutor, he would have been in terrible trouble. He couldn't even speak English. So anyway, that's a little story about how much we can rely on the Rebbe, and till today. And yeah, I have a bunch of letters that I have to put into Igros Kodesh even now. So, because I ask for blessings, I ask for all sorts of things. I ask for blessings for other people. Now, I'm going to give you blessings now, and I'm going to turn off. First of all, I give a blessing to everybody who's watching this, whoever watches on YouTube. I give you a blessing for a magnificent year, and for all the Jewish people who are listening, I give you blessings for health and wealth and joy from your families, joy from not only your immediate family, but from your extended family, from siblings if you're lucky to have them, and may you bring a lot of joy to your family that's already in heaven. May they get a lot of nachas from you. So now I'm going to turn it off and give specific blessings. Okay, not there, right here.